We'll discuss that chart that we have just seen. So, there are many approaches through which managers can make decisions, and one of them is rationality. What is rationality? Rationality is actually a decision based on the logic, based on objectivity, based on the facts and figures. So, where there is rationality, there are no emotions. Managers make consistent, value maximizing choices with specified constraints. Constraints means here constraint might means limited resources that you are running out of funds, for example, and you need to buy a good laptop. So what will you do? You have to go and figure out, you have to uh, work around and see which laptop is the best in the available budget you have. So, having said that, in rationality, we have a clear and specific goal, and we just try to achieve that through logic. And we select the alternative that maximizes the outcome in the organization's interest rather than in the personal interest. We seek to select an alternative. For example, I have previously quoted about the sales manager. Even if we like to have a laptop that has a good graphic card and we are fond of gaming ourselves, but it may it may not cater the needs of the sales representatives because they might not need the graphic card, but the memory, high storage, display might not be the consideration for them as well. But for us, display might be the consideration. We should not go based on our own opinion. Rather, we should follow what is in the best interest of the organization. So that is alternative selection. There are some additional points listed here for the rational decision makings. What are they? The problem is clear and unambiguous, and we have a problem in ourselves. And as if the problem is not clear, how can we come up with the proper solution regarding that? Also, a single well-defined goal is to be achieved. All alternatives and consequences are known. We know the outcomes of the every decision we make. We will also discuss about the certainty of our outcomes, uncertainty of our outcomes. So this will be included later in this chapter. Preferences are clear. Preferences are constant and stable. No time or cost constraint exist. Just like I have said that constraints might be in terms of funds also, but here they have discussed maybe the time is a constraint as well. Final choice will maximize payoff. If there is a person who is proficient in finance, and if you ask him to do a job regarding human resource, he might not be as efficient as he can be in finance. So that means if a finance person, if you ask him to do job about human resource, he will have a bounded rationality regarding that. So bounded rationality means when your rationality is limited, is confined, is bounded. You cannot process information as compared to someone who is veteran, who is expert in this field. Assumptions are that the decision makers will not seek out or have the knowledge of all alternatives. For example, if someone asks me to go and buy a mobile phone, and I don't know what is good, what are the good specifications, what are the contemporary requirements in the mobile phone, I may end up buying a phone that may not be very good. I may buy a phone that is high price. In contrast to that, if someone who is expert in this field, he will get a phone with a lesser price and a good specification. So that means if I don't know about things, if I am not expert regarding a certain field, I cannot explore things. I cannot go for the alternatives. I cannot ask for more mobile phones from the shopkeeper because I don't know what to see in the phones. What should be the criteria on which the phone should be bought? I am unaware of that. So if I am unaware of that because of my bounded rationality, so I will not seek out the alternative. I will just take the first one that seems good to me. If I When I go to the shop, if the first phone that I see is aesthetic, is beautiful, The color appeals me, so I decide to go for it. I may decide to go for it. So that will be something we call as satisfice, is just to get the first alternative you seek without further exploring things, without going for the alternatives. The first thing that you look and that appeals you try to get it, because you don't have the expertise to get deeper into the alternatives of that thing. So it has the influence on decision making as well. For example, it might result into the escalation of commitment. What is escalation of commitment? If you have taken a decision and you know at certain point of time later on, you figured out that the decision you have made at the first place might not be a good one. It may have a negative outcome in the future, but you are still adhering to it. You are still persisting on that. You are not ready to not ready to change that decision. So what might be the reason? The reason is, if you change your decision, if you take a U-turn, you think that the people will figure out that you are not proficient enough in your field. You do not have the hold on your job. You lack the expertise. So to hide these sentiments, what will you do? You will try to stick upon the even the wrong decision you have made at the first place. So escalation of commitment means that you just continue your commitment, even though if you find it's not of a good use, it will not have a good outcome in the future. So the next thing is the role of intuition. The next way out, the decision making way out, is the role of intuition. The first one we have discussed about rationality, and now we will discuss intuition. So, what is intuition? Intuition is actually something in contrast to rationality. This is opposite to rationality. That if a manager tends to make decisions based on the feelings, the experiences he have in the past, or the accumulated judgment he have, so if we take decisions on these things, on the basis of these things, then it will be an intuitive decision making. So intuition has many dimensions. We'll discuss them. Experience based decisions. A manager that has gone through a certain situation before, he has an experience regarding that. If he sees that the employee, if hiring of an employee that is overqualified, management may be happy about that, that for a certain seat they have hired a person who has loads of degrees under his sleeves, and he is very much qualified, and they may get the best out of that person that will benefit the organization as well. But in reality, the person who is appointing that overqualified person may have a past experience. The overqualified people, if they find a better job, they will leave instantly, and that will create a vacuum in the organization. That is not a good thing. They have to hire a person again, some other person again, and then they have to provide the training to that person, and that will be costly also. Also, the workflow will suffer as well. So that will be a decision based on the past experience. Affect initiated decisions. Managers make decisions based on feelings or emotions. So, if a manager has developed a certain amount of acquaintance regarding an employee or a colleague, so he may take decisions, favorable decisions regarding that person. He may give that employee to who he has created an acquaintance. He can give him undue promotions, and he can give to him undue benefits. So that is an example of an affect initiated decisions. And also, if you think that a certain employee is suffering a lot, you may not expel him. You may decide not to expel him. You may decide to retain him because his family is suffering. So it's an emotional decision. So it's a type of intuition as well. So the third one is cognitive based decision. Cognitive based decision is managers make decision based on skills, knowledge, and training. Cognitive abilities are the abilities that related to knowledge, skill, experience, and etc. Work environment as well. Work environment doesn't count. It is mainly based upon the mental capabilities. The cognitive based decision. Managers make decisions based on skill, knowledge, and training. Those who are qualified, they tend to use their experience and all of these abilities to come up with a fruitful decision making. Subconscious mental processing. Managers use data from subconscious mind to help them make decisions. Actually, what is subconscious? It is something that is at the back of your main conscious, and it is continuously evolving and developing, and we are not aware of it, and we are not consciously developing it. It is developing on its own. As an example, to understand this concept, I can give an example of a person who has many friends in the past, and all of them has done great things to him, and they have one thing very common. They all have one thing very common with each other, that is they all were very honest, and they all were soft spoken, and they were very disciplined. So at the later stage of the life, when that manager, when that person will encounter a person with these same traits, he will automatically in his subconscious can develop an opinion that this person is a good person. Whenever he see a person with good discipline, with honesty, so naturally his mind will compel him to develop an opinion, a good opinion about that person. So the values or ethics based decision is also linked with that. When you develop values with the passage of time, and values are also has a great occupation in your subconscious as well. So if you have developed the values that in a certain organization you have worked for 20 years, and in that organization there is a high emphasis to take care of the employees of that organization. When you leave that organization, that will certainly have a mark on your personality as well. Because wherever you go, if you find any managerial position and you go there and you join there, you have a chance to draw certain policies and procedures in your next organization, subsequent organization. So, what will you do is you will create policies that are people oriented, because this is your context, your background. You have been through this sort of environment before, so that is very natural. So the people oriented is your value. So you will take decision based on your values. Also, if another example, that if a person who you we can align this with the culture as well, with the ethnic aspect as well. Values or ethics has also very robust sort of link with the ethnicity as well. For example, some areas we have people that are very conservative. If a manager belonging to those areas, he may have those conservative elements in his personality, and also reflect in his decision making as well. Structured problems. Structured problems are those that are reoccurring, that we expect it to happen. So these problems are actually the part and parcel of your work life. For example, in an IT-based company, what problems might be reoccurring, like the failure of software, or any problem with your hardware. So these sort of problems that can reoccur. So you have a programmed solution for that, programmed decision making for that. Whenever there is certain hardware failure, you will call the vendor and ask for the services. He will come and fix your hardware. For the program decisions, there are three types. Further types for that. One is policy, other thing is procedure, and the third one is rule. What is a policy? Policy is a broad statement. A broad statement that clarifies the guideline for making a decision making about a structured problem. How? Let me explain it through the example. For example, our policy is to accept all the customer returned merchandise. Whatever the customer wants to return, they are open to return. It's a policy that they can return the merchandise, but the procedure is that they should complete all the steps. They should complete all the documentation. Then they can return their merchandise. The procedure is rules are actually the further detail of the procedures. For example, by going through the steps may also involve that manager should approve all the funds that are over $50. And obviously, no credit purchases are refunded for cash. Credit purchases are not for cash. So if the cash is as not exchanged at the first place, so what's the point of reimbursing because they haven't paid the cash at the first place? So unstructured problems are new and unusual, and the decision making is kind of tough and it's more time consuming. For example, if you have a situation that has not been here before, so you have to come up with a customized solution. Like in COVID-19, in the first few months, no one has an idea how to pursue their work life now because seemingly at that time back then it was like we don't know when the things will be normal, so it was a new normal at every organization. With the passage of time they started either hybrid system or a remote work system. It's an unstructured problem, so it has a non-programmed decisions. Non-programmed decision is to start working from home. Unstructured problem is that we cannot come to offices due to the the protocols of the avoidance of pandemic. That is why we have to be disciplined and stay home. So these are the characteristics of program decisions and non-program decisions. So that the type of problem, if it is structured, then it can be taken care by the lower levels as well. As I have quoted the example before, that if someone has a problem with the hardware with in the IT lab in any computer system, so he can ask the vendor to come and fix. There is no need for any cognitive abilities. The solutions are very clear and anyone can execute it. So, on the other hand, if the problem is unstructured, the solution is probably a complex one because it is time consuming and a customized one. So, uh, probably there is a need for the upper management to get involved into this matter. Program decisions are repetitive routine matters, and non-program are new and unusual. Information to solve the problem about program decisions is readily available, and for non-program decisions, it need to be gathered. So they are complex, they are ambiguous, they are incomplete. So goals we have are clear and specific in program decisions that we need to fix this machine. This is the clear goal. But in non-program decisions, we are not even aware of the fact that we may fix this problem or not. We are not even sure about it. So it's very vague. And program decision is time frame for the solution. That is short. Program decisions, everything is there, everything is on the plate. You just have to execute the things. In the non-program decisions, because it needs to be customized, so it takes some time. So it's a relatively long process of decision making. Solution relies on procedures, rules, and policies, whereas in non-program decisions, you because the situations are comparatively newer as compared to before. So the novelty will compel the top management to use their creativity or their judgment skills to create a solution about it. So there are certain conditions in which managers take decisions. Certainty is a situation where the outcome of every decision might be known. For example, if I appoint a person with with bachelor's qualification. I know what will be the outcome on my work process. So on the other hand, if when I'm not sure about the outcome, that I doubt the personality, the doubt the capability of my employee, I can say that there is a 50% chance that he can be productive. So when there is a percentage of or a chance of occurrence involved, that becomes a risk. So and there is a minor difference between risk and uncertainty. Uncertainty is a superlative degree of risk, because in uncertainty we cannot even calculate the level of risk we have. For example, there is a huge amount of uncertainty in terms of economy, and we have countries that are suffering from the hyperinflation. So they cannot even tell in figures that what might be the rates in the coming days about their consumer items. So that's a height of uncertainty. So a height of uncertainty, you cannot tell the likelihood, you cannot come up with percentages. We have huge amount of uncertainty, just as I have quoted the example of the COVID, that we don't know what is coming ahead and how much this thing will linger on. So we cannot come up with an objective decisions or any rational decisions. The only thing we can rely upon is the intuition or the gut feeling, our creative instinct. So Maximax, there are three things. So let me explain with an example. For example, there is a huge amount of uncertainty, and a manager has to make decisions regarding uh, launching a new product line, a product line of, for instance, new mobile phones. So for the Maximax, the optimistic manager will launch his product line with the optimistic approach that he may get the huge amount of profits, because there is uncertainty. Uncertainty can go to the favorable aspect as well, not it's necessarily to the negative always. The Maximin approach is that the manager we have is a pessimistic. He will mostly think about the negative outcomes. So what will he do? He will not gonna launch the new product line. He will be reluctant about that. That we can potentially suffer losses. So the third one is Minimax. Minimax is a manager that will take into account both the situations we have discussed above. Also, if he launches and gets the profit, if he do not launches the product and the potential losses he might occur. He will weight both the situations and then take the decision. There are ways of thinking when we have to make decisions, and the first one is more towards the rationality approach. When we have a logical thinking, when we are logical, so the decisions that we make are, they are consistent, because when if we are relying on the intuition, the feelings or emotions, then our decision making might not be consistent, because at one point of time we might think that this thing is good for us, but at the other point of time we might have a different opinion. So one is linear thinking, that is more objective, more rational, orderly and consistent, and the other is non-linear thinking, that is not very objective. In the ways of thinking we have, as we have discussed, that one is rationality and the other thing is non-linear thinking, that is intuitive, creative and unique. So when we are rational, we have low tolerance about our decision making protocols. For example, we want to consider the facts and figures, and we evaluate those facts and figures, and we come up with a decision. When we come up with a decision based on the facts and figures, then our decision making is consistent, as we have discussed before. But if we are relying upon our intuition or our subjective feeling or our emotions, so as I've said before, they might vary in different situations. So there can be multiple thoughts in our minds, and that can reflect the decision making as well. So there needs to be a high tolerance in that decision making. You need to be highly tolerant about that, because the decisions you are making may not be the others may not be very agreed upon that decision making. You are trying to make a decision, and they are not very much on the same page regarding that decision you are making. If we go into the examples of each of these categories, for the directives, they are very quick in their decision making because they are not fond of uh, fond of having more alternatives and spending more times. They are more into the things that are already established in the market, the solutions, the practices that are already established in the market. For example, if I want to buy a phone and I'm a manager, I want to buy a phone for the employee. I will just consider which phones as my rivals are using, my rival companies are using for their employees. This is an already established fact and already established practice that is going on. So I will go for those type of phones without exploring more alternatives. And the analytic is that you go for more alternatives yourself, and you try to make decisions between various alternatives you have. Based on your analysis, you come up with a solution. Conceptual is when you do not afraid to think out of the box. For example, there are some practices of marketing or advertising as well uh, that are that are prevailing in a certain society. But those who are conceptual decision makers, they can introduce a new form of advertising method that is not being practiced in a certain society before. So because it might be risky, it may not be acceptable in the certain society. It may be other way around that people will embrace it and welcome it more than expectation. The behavioral one is when you take everyone on board in your team. For example, if you want to set a deadline of a certain project, then you will take into account the workload of all the people in your team that is involved in that particular project. You will see that the people will they be able to meet the deadline you are setting for them. So you will take these things into account. So that is a behavioral decision making.